Hello folks, this is Pastor and Mrs. Steve Cape, and we're here in Rome, Georgia, right outside the Redmond Medical Center here. And this is the first place that Heather, our daughter, was brought to back in 1994, on July the 15th, 1994. And so we're here today because of some very special things, of course, that are taking place this day, and then of course with us all throughout this week. And on this day, today, the second Monday of February of 2021, this is International Epilepsy Day. And so we thought we would do some videos today to try to explain a little bit about epilepsy and about seizures. Heather, our daughter, for 27 years has had epilepsy and has had hundreds of thousands, not hundreds or a few thousand, but literally hundreds of thousands of seizures throughout the last 27 years. And she's had every type of seizure you could possibly think about. And so we wanted to be a help today to folks and throughout this week. And so my wife is going to help me with a few things today. And let's just kind of go back a little bit, honey, if we can, almost 27 years ago to July the 15th, 1994, if we can.
That was on a Saturday, and Heather had her first seizure that we know of that lasted more than 45 minutes. It was a prolonged, simple, complex, partial seizure, and they brought her by ambulance here to the Redmond Hospital. And it's a little emotional reflecting back on that day, but for those of you suffering with epilepsy, we'd just like to say that keep going, you're heroes, and we know what it's like, not personally to have epilepsy, but to watch a loved one suffer with it.
On that day, back in July of 1994, not just Heather came to the hospital on that day, but our middle daughter, Heather's younger sister, would come also in another ambulance. So we had two ambulances that came here. Jenna, our middle daughter, had fallen and broken her leg, and so on that same day, as a matter of fact, the day that Jenna broke her leg, within a few moments of time, Heather would have her first seizure. That took place and happened when we lived in Silver Creek, which is about, we believe, about 9 miles or so away from the hospital, 9 to 10 miles. And of course, Heather had fallen off of a bike, hit her head on the ground, and went into a seizure. Now, when they got her here to the hospital, they didn't tell us that it was a seizure. As a matter of fact, they kind of ruled it out.
They weren't sure what happened.
Yes, and it was not until a couple of months later that we would find her in her bed in a full tonic-clonic seizure that would last for over 6 hours long. But what our desire today, as well as the next few days, is to explain a little bit about epilepsy.
Yes.
Heather is with us right now, of course not in this video, and she will be in some of the other videos. And she's a little tired right now, and of course the sun is shining pretty bright on us, and she has a very difficult time seeing, and whenever the sun is this bright, because of her surgeries, brain surgeries, and other things too. But we did want to just kind of talk to you, if we can, for a few moments about seizures and epilepsy. May I say this to you, first of all, epilepsy, it means more than how many seizures?
More than one.
More than one seizure.
And it's not a disease, it's a disorder.
That's right. When I first heard the term epilepsy years ago when I was in school as a young man, I thought, what is that? What type of an illness is that?
Can you catch it? Is it contagious?
It didn't sound very good.
Yeah.
And whoever had named the term and used the term epileptic or epilepsy, but it means more than one seizure. And of course, there are many different ways that a person could have a seizure, and we're going to be describing some of those. But folks, did you know that in America, 1 out of every 26 people will be diagnosed with epilepsy? And is also stated that in America, 10% now, think about this, 10% of all of the folks that are in America will have a seizure at least one time in their life. That's the way most people are.
Right.
And if you're going to have a seizure, normally it's only going to be just one time, and there are various ways again a person can have a seizure. A traumatic event, a time of shock, or even a little child that has a febrile and a fever, but has febrile type of seizures because of a high temperature that comes on suddenly. And so there are many different things that can cause seizures as well.
What a seizure is just a misfiring of electrical activity in the brain, and it causes the person sometimes to be unconscious. They can have staring seizures where they're just off distanced, can hear you but not really respond to you, and there are several ways that someone can have a seizure, but that's what it is. It's just a misfiring of electrical charges in our brain.
So today we came just to give you a few thoughts. As a matter of fact, you know, there are a lot of different people. We have a Supreme Court justice who has had seizures. John Roberts has seizures. We've also, there are other people. You remember Bud and Abbott? You remember Mr. Costello?
Yeah.
And but if you remember the fun times, and of course we still like to watch those old black and white comedic things. But Bud Abbott was he had seizures, and there are other people. President McKinley. His wife had seizures, and people today, it is very famous people have had seizures and as well, and there are various types, as we've already stated and said. So we want you to know, first of all, it has been had a bad stigma been placed upon a lot of people, and that's something that ought to be removed. It is a disorder. But it's not a disease.
Right, and it's not always, it's a neurological condition, but it doesn't mean that the person has learning problems or things like that. Yeah. Sometimes if they have more seizures and because of their condition, they may have learning issues. But just because someone has a seizure doesn't mean that there's something wrong with them mentally.
That's right. But there are people, of course, there are many different diseases that are out there that one of the things that will be associated with a person's disease would be seizures too. And so we're going to talk about some of those things as well. But we just wanted to come to you today and just encourage you in the Lord, because our daughter, who's had seizures for 27 years, has an amazing spirit about her.
Right.
And again, with hundreds of thousands of seizures, the average person is going to have 1 or 2 seizures a year.
Yes.
If they have epilepsy. But she's had hundreds of thousands, and she averages anywhere from 3 to 5 seizures every single day. And she's had every type of seizure you could possibly think about.
My first encounter with anyone having a seizure was when I was in high school. And there was a young woman there named Belinda, and she actually had a seizure in one of our science classes and fell on the floor. And back then, that was a very long time ago, but there was a misdemeanor or just something out there that they thought you had to put something in the person's mouth that they would swallow their tongue. So the teacher proceeded to try to get something in her mouth to keep her from swallowing her tongue. But it was very embarrassing to Belinda, and I remember that so well that I befriended her because everybody after that episode shunned her, and she had no friends in school. I gave her my personal phone number, and we talked frequently, and maybe that was God just getting me ready for what I would face whenever I had my own children, and we had to see Heather go through that. But don't be unkind to people with epilepsy.
That's right. And again, Heather started when she was 9 years old, and today she's 36. And so, again, there are various things that would cause a person to have a seizure. But we're going to talk about that. Again, we are to be kind one to another, tenderhearted, forgiving one another, even as God, for Christ's sake, hath forgiven each one of us. So no matter what the problem may be in a person's life, we're still supposed to care for them and try to care for them. We're going to explain some more what to do Again, here over the next couple of days, what to do when you see a person have a
Yes.
seizure. How are you supposed to treat them? For sure, never to put anything in their mouth.
Right.
And again, that is one of those misnomers, one of the things that people thought you should do years ago. You cannot swallow your tongue, and a lot of times they will bite the tongue, or they would bite the inside of their cheek or their mouth. But that's one of the last things, again, a person should do, is ever put anything in a person's mouth. Everything will be all right. But we're going to talk about that a little bit further. We're going to get off of here, and we want to just take a few moments of time. Thank you. Tune in tomorrow at 5 o'clock, and then, of course, on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday as well. But if you know of someone who has seizures or epilepsy, pray for them. Encourage them in the Lord, and let them know that everything's okay. They're all right, too. And it may be that you are listening to us today. That may be the case with you, or a loved one, a mom, dad, brother, sister, or a friend that you go to church with, somebody like that as well. All right?
Happy National Epilepsy Day.
Yes, yes. Well, take care, and we will talk to you tomorrow at 5 o'clock. All right?
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.